Hi, fifth graders, and welcome to lesson 1.12 over grouping symbols. We are starting on page 73 today. So the standard that we are working with today, again, is Order of Operations in Algebraic Thinking 5.1. This standard states I can use parentheses, brackets, or braces and think about expressions with the order of operations in mind. So we are going to be solving our expressions very similar to what we did with lesson 1.11, but we now have more than one set of grouping symbols within our expressions. So on page 73, the essential question is asking, in what order must operations be evaluated to find a solution when there are parentheses within parentheses? So like I said, we will have more than one set of grouping symbols that we will have within each expression. So under Unlock the Problem, this question says, Mary's weekly allowance is $8 and David's weekly allowance is $5. Every week, they each spend $2 on lunch. Write a numerical expression to show how many weeks it will take them together to save enough money to buy a video game for $45. So first, let's go ahead and underline Mary's weekly allowance and then how much she is spending. So we know that Mary, she gets an $8 weekly allowance and she's going to spend $2 of that allowance. Now let's work with David's. So we're going to circle David's weekly allowance and then how much he spends. So we know for every week, David gets $5 and he spends $2 of that. So now using this information, we can use parentheses and brackets to group those operations that go together. And then operations in parentheses and brackets are obviously performed first. So we need to make sure we are writing our expression to represent how much Mary and David save each week. So we need to figure out how much Mary saves each week. So if you recall, we underlined that Mary starts with $8 and that she spends $2 of that 8. So that is how we would find how much Mary saves per week. And then we have to do the same thing for David. We know that David gets $5 every week and he spends 2 of that. So now to combine both of those expressions together to figure out how much the 2 of them would save every single week, we would just have an addition sign between both of those sets of parentheses. So Mary is 8 minus 2 plus David, which is 5 minus 2. So now remember, they would like to be able to save to buy a video game that costs $45. So we need to, for step 2, write an expression to represent how many weeks it will take Mary and David to save enough money for that video game. So the bullet point is asking how many weeks will it take Mary and David to save enough money for the video game. So we know that the video game is $45. So I'm going to write 45 out front. And then inside the brackets, we need to write the expression we just came up with to figure out how much Mary and David save per week. So looking at that expression from the bullet point of step 1, we have 8 minus 2 in parentheses plus my 5 minus 2 in another set of parentheses. So in order for us to figure out how many weeks, we would then need to solve the parentheses that are located inside the brackets first. So if I would solve this, I know it's not asking for the answer, but just to help us with this, we know that we would follow our order of operations, which is PEMDAS. The P stands for parentheses, the E stands for exponents. So in the 5th grade, we work with powers of 10 for our exponents. So the 3, that would be our exponent. Multiply and divide, whichever one comes first, going from left to right. And then add and subtract, again, whichever one comes first, going from left to right. So if I look, I see that the parentheses, there are 2 sets of parentheses located inside the brackets. So I'm actually going to take 8 minus 2 and 5 minus 2 in the same step. So 8 minus 2 we know is 6, 5 minus 2 we know is 3. We did say we would have to add those together. Because I still have those brackets, that means I have to make sure I rewrite them, because I know that I would still have to solve 6 plus 3 first before I can then do my final step of taking the 45 divided by how much they save per week. The brackets are just like another form of parentheses. They're just saying that we would have to solve the addition first. So 6 plus 3 does give me 9, and then rewrite the last step of 45 divided by 9, which we know is 5. So to answer their question for how many weeks, we know it would take them 5 weeks. Now I know this question is truly asking for the expression, but this just helps you know how we would solve it to find the final answer of how many weeks. Notice how as I was solving, I rewrote everything that I did not use. That is especially important for this lesson, because if you do not rewrite everything that has not been performed yet, you will lose something and you will end up with an incorrect answer. So now going to the next page, 74. Evaluate expressions with grouping symbols. So when evaluating an expression with different grouping symbols, for example, parentheses, brackets, and braces, perform the operation in the innermost set of grouping symbols first, evaluating the expression from the inside out. So we always work from the inside out when we are solving these. You'll start with the parentheses, then you'll solve the brackets, and then if there are braces, you would solve that next. And anything that would be outside of that would then be solved last. So my next example says, Juan gets $6 for his weekly allowance and spends $4 of it. His sister Tina gets $7 for her weekly allowance and spends $3 of it. Their mother's birthday is in 4 weeks. If they spend the same amount each week, how much money can they save together in that time to buy her a present? So they already set up the expression for us. We know that the 6 minus 4 would be Juan's amount left after he spends his weekly allowance. And then the 7 minus 3 would be Tina's amount that she would have left after spending part of her weekly allowance. And then to find how much they would save together, you would add that their two amounts together, and then finally multiply that number by 4. So let's go ahead and start solving this. So I can go ahead and solve both sets of parentheses first. We work our way from the inside out. So I can take 6 minus 4, which we know is 2, plus we need to also take the 7 minus 3, which equals 4. Notice they already rewrote everything that we did not use, and they made sure that they brought down the brackets because we are not done solving within them. So my next step would be to solve the brackets because they are another form of parentheses. So 2 plus 4 does give me 6. And then we know that it's in 4 weeks, so my last step is to multiply by 4, and that would show that they would have $24 saved up for their mother's birthday present. Moving down, connect symbols and words. What if only Tina saves any money? Will this change the numerical expression? And they want us to explain. So yes, that would obviously change the numerical expression. We know that it would still be for 4 weeks that she would be saving. But this time we do not have to include David's savings. We know that David was saving $2 per week. We would no longer need to have the brackets anymore. We would just have the braces for, we would just have the parentheses for Tina's amount that she saves, which would be the 7 minus 3. Under the try this A, notice we have all 3 types of grouping symbols. We have the parentheses, we have the brackets, and we also have the braces. So I am going to just rewrite the expression above, just shift it over because they did start solving part of it, and it does help to have the carets to show in what step I am working on. So 4 times brace, bracket, parenthesis, 5 minus 2, and the parenthesis, times 3, and the bracket, plus, now I need a new bracket, and I have in parentheses 2 plus 4, and that parenthesis, times 2, and that bracket, and then end the final brace. So, like I said, we work from our innermost set of parentheses to the outermost. So we did solve the 5 minus 2 to get this 3. And notice they wrote down the 4 times the brace, the bracket. We still have the times 3 that's inside the first bracket, the plus sign. So then inside the second bracket, we need to make sure we're filling this in. So we do need to solve 2 plus 4, which we know is 6. They already wrote down the multiplication sign. And then we just need to bring down the 2, end bracket, and brace. So now we can solve both sets of brackets because it would be like having 2 sets of parentheses. So they already solved the 3 times 3 to get this 9. Now we would need to solve 6 times 2 and have 12. We still need to bring down the braces because we did not solve everything inside all grouping symbols yet. And we have to multiply by 4 for our very last step. So now to finish the grouping symbols, my 9 plus 12, we know that that does give us 21. And then my final step is to take 21 times 4, which does give us our 84 for our final answer. So as you are solving the expressions that have all 3 grouping symbols, please, please, please make sure that you are writing everything down that you are not using so that way nothing is lost as you are working. So to do another example, I'm just going to take the expression for B and I'm going to rewrite it above the work so that way it's easier to follow along. So 32 divided by brace, bracket, parenthesis, 3 times 2, end that parenthesis, plus 7, end the bracket, minus new bracket, parenthesis, 6 minus 4, end the parenthesis, plus 7, and that bracket, and then end the brace. So now, again, working from the innermost out, solving the parentheses first. So I can go ahead and solve both sets of parentheses because they're located in opposite sections of my expression. So I know that 3 times 2 equals 6. They already brought down the 32, divide, brace, bracket, the plus sign. I can bring down the 7 because I did not work with that yet. Brought down the end bracket, the minus sign, the first bracket of the new set. Now I can do 6 minus 4, which is 2. Brought down the plus. I can bring down the 7 and then the bracket and the brace to finish it off. So now, like I said, brackets are solved just like parentheses next. So I would take my 6 plus 7, which is 13, and my 7 plus 2, which is 9. They brought down the minus sign that was in between both sets of brackets. They brought down the braces, and we also have the 32 divided by. So now I have to solve my final grouping symbol. So 13 minus 9 does give me 4. And then 32 divided by 4 is my last step to get an answer of 8. So now to do some more questions that would be similar to your homework. So for question number 1, again, they filled in part of it for us. So I see that they already did this set of parentheses. The 15 minus 5 gives me that 10. The other set of parentheses, the 9 minus 3 equals 6. Oops, I'm sorry, as I write the wrong number. So 9 minus 3 does equal 6. And then to solve this set of the brackets, I have 10 plus 6 equals 16. And my final step would then be to add 12 plus 16 together to get an answer of 28. For number 2, again, we work from the innermost grouping symbol to the outside. So the parentheses would be our innermost grouping symbol, and I can solve both of them on the same step. So I have 26 minus 4, which we know is 22, minus, and then my 4 plus 6 would equal 10. make sure I bring down those brackets because I've not solved everything inside them yet, and times 5 on the outside. So now I can do my set of brackets, which is 22 minus 10, which would equal 12. Bring down that 5 times, and to solve to get the final answer, 5 times 12 gives me 60. Next, number 3. Again, working from the innermost grouping symbol, my parentheses. I can do both 18 minus 10, which is 8, and 8 minus 6, which is 2. Bring down everything that I have not used yet. So inside this next grouping symbol, the brackets, I would do 8 minus 2, which is 6, and bring down the 36 divided by. So my final step is to take 36 divided by 6, which does give me the final answer of 6. For question number 4, it says to still evaluate those numerical expressions. Working from those innermost grouping symbols first, we have our 16 minus 4 and our 12 minus 9. So 16 minus 4 does equal 12. 12 minus 9 equals 3. Bring down the plus sign and the brackets. And your final step would obviously be the plus 4. So then, work in the brackets. I have 12 plus 3, that equals 15. Bring down that plus 4 to get a final answer of 19. For question number 5, innermost grouping symbol, the parentheses first. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 16 minus 9 is 7. Bring down the brackets and bring down the plus sign. And the 24 minus on the outside. So now 3 plus 7 is 10. 24 minus 10 would give me a final answer of 14. So for number 6, they do have it stacked, and this would make it extremely difficult to follow along. So I am going to rewrite this so that way it is easier to follow along in my work. So, working with my innermost grouping symbol first, my parentheses, I have 12 minus 8 that I know is 4, and 11 minus 9, which I know is 2. So now I have to make sure I'm also bringing down everything else. So in front of the 4, I have my bracket, my brace, and the times 3. Behind the 4, I still have that times 2, and the bracket, the plus sign, new bracket. So I've already solved the 11 minus 9, which is 2, times 3, and bracket, and brace. So now working with the brackets, I have 4 times 2, which is 8. I can bring down the brace, the times 3 on the outside, plus, now I'm going to do the 2 times 3, which is 6, and bring down the ending brace. So my final grouping symbol, 8 plus 6 does equal 14. Bring down that times 3. And I know that 14 times 3 does equal 42. So to get started on our homework, we are going to solve questions 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the top. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 from the top. Again, make sure you're showing all work. Make sure you're bringing down everything that you do not use so nothing is lost. So I'm going to set up question number 6 for you so that way you can then solve it for number 7. So number 6 is just writing the expression to represent the total number of muffins and bagels Joan sells in 5 days. So off in the box to the right, it says Joan has a cafe. Each day she bakes 24 muffins. She gives away 3 and sells the rest. Each day she also bakes 36 bagels. She gives away 4 and sells the rest. So for the expression, if we are doing 24 muffins every single day, we would have 24, and then again she's giving away 3 of those muffins, so 24 minus 3 in parentheses to show how many muffins that she would be selling. Same with the bagels. We know she has 36 bagels that she makes, but again she gives away 4 of them, so 36 minus 4 in parentheses to show how many bagels she would sell in one day. Now to find our total, we know we would have to add those 2 together. But notice we're supposed to be doing this for 5 days. So I am going to place that in brackets. And then once I solve both of those sets of parentheses, I'm going to multiply my answer by 5. So for number 7, you are going to solve the expression from number 6 to tell me how many muffins and bagels she would, how many muffins and bagels she would sell for those 5 days. If you have any questions for question number 7, please let Mr. Randall or I know. On the back, we are going to solve all of them. Notice both question number 1 and number 2, they're just having you solve those expressions just like we did on the front. Question number 3, this goes back to lesson 1.1. They want to know what is 1/10 of 200. So remember, if you're finding 1/10 of a number, you're finding a smaller value, and you're essentially dividing by 10. So 1/10 is the same as dividing by 10. Number 4, the Park family is staying at a hotel near an amusement park for 3 nights. The hotel costs $129 per night. How much will their 3-night stay in the hotel cost? So per night, that does tell us that we will have to multiply in order to figure out our total costs. So we're going to take 129 times the number of nights, which was 3. Question number 5, Vital bought 2 pizzas and cut each into 8 slices. He and his friends ate 10 slices. Write an expression to match the words. So ladies and gentlemen, we know that we are working with 2 pizzas and how many slices that they are being each cut into. So we know that we have a multiplication sign within our parentheses. And then if they're eating, you would have to take away. So you will have to fill in 3 missing numbers within this expression. And finally, number 6, what is the value of the underlined digit? So this is back from lesson 1.2. Remember, you are writing that underlined digit, and then you are going to just replace everything behind it with zeros. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please let one of us know, and we will address it as quickly as possible. Thanks.